All right, welcome to the School of Natural Healing. The school was founded in 1953 by Dr. John R. Christopher, and we're continuing with his methodology in natural healing, and we hope that the next 40 years are going to be just as productive as the last. Tonight we're going to talk about immunity. And to do that, I think we need to get in a time machine and go places. And the first place we're going to go is into the future. So, best way to do that is with Star Trek II, The Next Generation. I hope a lot of you watched that show. If you have, you can maybe help me out. Do you remember the episode where they landed on the planet of crystals? And they thought it was an uninhabited planet, and the crystal life form rebelled against their landing on their planet and messing things up and destroying life form there. And when we finally realized what we had done and started communicating, we thought they were just rocks, and they thought we were, does anybody remember? Ugly bags of infected water. Ugly bags of infected water. We are mostly water, are we not? Now, if one of them was to come down here and put their probe on this gentleman here and say, okay, what is he? What do you think they would think with an analyzation, a probe on him? What would he be composed of? Mostly. Besides water, we already know that. Hydrogen, so gases, there's the gases, that carbon. So we have elements, minerals, can we say? Well, look at him. There's something there besides minerals and gases. What kind of holds them together? He's got a skeletal system, okay, and I think a lot of that's minerals. Something's alive. There's something alive there. Well, there's definitely some spirit there if they could detect it. I'm looking at him. I can see a lot of something.
Organized cells.
Cells, okay. What kind of cells is it? Plant cells? He's not vegetating here. Animal cells. You think he's mostly animal cell? Okay. Well, if they did a probe and found out what we were mostly composed of, it wouldn't be any of those. You see, we do have 10 trillion animal cells, it's true. But we have 100 trillion bacteria cells. So we're mostly bacteria. We are a walking ecosystem. We're planet Earth for this 100 trillion cells that we carry around. Why do we carry them around? What is benefiting us by having these 100 trillion cells on us? In fact, we've got more cells in our intestines than there are people on the face of the earth, with as many as 400 different varieties. We are full of bacteria. Now, like I said, we are planet Earth for this bacteria, so it must be on us for a reason, and we must carry it for a reason. Now, we're carrying this bacteria, and what it gets from us is our mucosa. We feed it. That's why it stays. We're constantly secreting mucosa, and that's what it lives on. What does it do for us? It makes it possible. It solely makes it possible for us to live in our environment and not be subject to it. That's what this bacteria does for us. So what we have is a hermetical seal. We have this skin that seals us from our environment. But if it wasn't for the bacteria, this skin wouldn't only be a barrier, it'd be a sieve. And it still is. But it's a selective sieve. This bacteria does the selecting. And so you can put the most dangerous contaminant on your skin and it won't get in. You can put the most dangerous bacteria or virus or whatever on your skin, it will not get in. Because your friendly flora, your friendly bacteria will crowd it out, will poison it. Your bacteria actually creates poison for other bacteria. Bacteriocin is what it's called. And so it is our protectorant. It makes us hermetically sealed from our environment. So all those pathogens out there, all those invaders that would like to get in and take over our cells cannot do that because we are hermetically sealed. So the first rule in natural healing is we do not compromise this hermetical seal. We do not. So in natural healing, we never, ever have to puncture the skin. Anything that we do, we can do without puncturing the skin. Because when you do, you're going to open it up to the environment. You can get 100 million AIDS cells on the tip of a pin. And so we don't think we want to inject that into us. Now, naturally, this hermetical seal is going to break once in a while because of accidents. What is the body's way of protecting us in that instance? Well, the skin's broken. Now what? Bleeding. Yes. You know, I find it amazing. People will go give a pint of blood every so often. That's fine. But if they get a little cut and they bleed, it's just like they immediately have to stop it. You can't let any blood out. No, that's the way the body has of flushing those invaders out. So bleeding helps. And so when we do cut ourselves, we do want to bleed. Now, how much blood do you get when you inject a needle into somebody? 0. So whatever was on the tip of that needle is into your system, bypassing your first line of defense and leaving you vulnerable. Because there's no way of flushing it back out again. Of course, when they do it, they don't want to flush things out. They're trying to put something in. But whatever's riding on that needle, and this environment is full of it, it's full of pathogens. We do not live in a vacuum. And it's out there no matter how sterile you try to make something. It's still going to be there. So we don't want to break that hermetical seal. Now, when we cut ourselves, the body is amazing at how fast it repairs. And immediately, it starts creating skin to cover up the hole that's been created. This is a very small hole, but it's blown up. And so we go ahead and let the cells flush out, go ahead and let it bleed, flush out any invaders that were coming in, and then the skin starts to repair this, starts netting it over. Now, when it does, one of the most amazing substances in the universe happens in that area right there. Pac-Man. How many of you have played the game Pac-Man? How many haven't played the game Pac-Man? How many just don't want to raise your hands? I made you raise them. Pac-Man is a game where electronically you have this circle that has a mouth, and it goes around the screen gobbling up impurities. And for each of the impurities, you get points. Well, your body has the same thing, this Pac-Man. They're called phagocyte cells of the immune system. Most notably, macrophages. These macrophages then go to this site where the damage has been caused, and they'll come in here, and anything that's coming in that wasn't flushed out, they'll gobble up. Amazing. Our immune system works so well. Now, as these macrophages gobble up these impurities, they may have come across something that's alive, or something that would like to be alive, a bacteria or a virus. When they come across this bacteria or virus, they recognize it as being something very dangerous for you, something that wants to invade your system and use your resources and use your mucosa, which you know your flora wants, or use your cells to replicate like viruses do. And so the macrophage will then take the genetic code of the bacteria, the protein, the antigen, and display it on itself. It destroys it and takes the protein and puts it on its outer layer. And then it'll come in contact with a T helper cell. Put an H on here. This T helper cell will have a receptor site that'll recognize this particular protein as being foreign. Now, it'll also have a receptor site to recognize whatever is self. And so the macrophage is going to have its genetic code showing that it's self, and it'll fit in here, and then whatever is invading will then fit into this. And the T helper cell will go, ho, 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 this isn't self. See, what your immune system is designed to do is recognize self and non-self. Protect self and destroy non-self. It's as simple as that. And so with these receptor sites, it's able to tell. Now, once the T helper cell has determined that something dangerous has invaded the system, then what it's going to do is it's going to contact T killer cells and these T killer cells will then be very specific. They'll be able to create a chemical that will kill this particular invader. And they'll actually inject it into the bacteria and destroy that bacteria. Now what happens is the macrophage talks to the T helper cell, telling it to multiply, through a substance called interleukin-1. It's just the chemical, the protein, that they communicate between each other with. And this interleukin-1 then stimulates the production of T helper cells. The T helper cell then produces a substance called interleukin-2, which then stimulates the production of T killer cells. And when it does that, these T killer cells, the T helper cells, they multiply rapidly, much more rapidly than do bacteria or viruses. And just to show you how fast bacteria can grow, you could get an infection, say in your head, not know it, wake up the next morning with your head the size of a watermelon. That's how fast bacteria can grow in your system. Very fast growing. But your immune system can grow even faster than that. Now, my daughter was taking advanced placement biology in high school, so she wouldn't have to take it in college. And they got to the immune system, the teacher said, anybody here know anything about the immune system? So she raised her hand, being my daughter, she knew quite a bit about it. And so the teacher let her explain. And after she got through, he said, I don't think so. Now this information I didn't make up. You can find it in the textbook of immunology, UCLA Medical School, 1984. It was quite a while ago that this stuff came out. I mean, it's nothing new. So why didn't this teacher know about it? See, he agreed with a lot of this, but he didn't agree with the part that said that the body's immune system grows faster than bacteria. Now, why was that left out of their textbook? Because their textbook was funded by a drug company that manufactured antibiotics. And do they want people to know that their own body will do the same thing that their antibiotics will do? Well, I don't think so. So, your body works, and your body works very well. These T killer cells are very effective against bacteria. Now, when you get a virus, that's something different. And this is one of the reasons why antibiotics don't work against viruses. Viruses do not grow in your system. They don't have the genetic capabilities to do that. What a virus has to do is it actually has to invade one of your cells. It has to get inside of your cell and then replicate. So it uses the genetic code of your cell to replicate. It can't do it on its own. So it gets in there, and then a lot of viruses are made. Once these viruses are made, then the cell bursts open, and then they go and infect other cells. The problem is your immune system isn't going to destroy your own cell. It can't tell that there's anything wrong there. Well, and that's why an antibiotic can't do that, okay? Because it doesn't see anything wrong. Well, one thing that you have to realize in this universe is that there's some constants. And one of the constants is, if it's alive, It has to be nourished. And if it's nourished, it has to eliminate. It's as simple as that. So this cell is constantly being nourished, and it's constantly eliminating. The viruses are in here. You can't tell they're in there because they're inside the cell. But with this elimination of the cell, then the proteins, the genetic code of the viruses is in that elimination. And so your Pac-Man comes along, gobbling up impurities. It gobbles up this impurity and goes, uh-oh, bing, 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 bing. And then the whole system kicks into play here. What happens is the T killer cells then will come up to this cell, inject its poison into the cell, and destroy this particular cell, saving the body from this particular invader. Your immune system is ingenious, and it works so well. Another thing that it can do, the T helper cells also produce a substance called BCG. B cell growth factor. And when it injects this, it's kind of like the interleukin 2, but it's specific for B cells. B cells are entirely different than T cells. T cells directly attack the problem. B cells produce antibodies. These are proteins put out by the immune system, little Y-shaped proteins. And so it manufactures these proteins, these antibodies against specific antigens. Now, when the T cell injects its poison and bursts the cell, some of these viruses aren't going to be destroyed. But as they escape, as these viruses come out and escape, then these antibodies will connect to one of these viruses, slowing it down so that the macrophage can devour it or a T cell can destroy it. And it actually is a marker. Let's take a look at some of these cells. Here's a macrophage sending out a pseudopod, or just an arm, to get this virus. They're big, cumbersome cells. Looks like something out of Star Wars, doesn't it? That's not the normal shape of one of your macrophages. Generally, they're in a round shape. But when they become stimulated and start actively fighting, they take on an elongated shape. This is a cancer cell that the macrophages are devouring. See, the only thing that destroys cancer is your own immune system, without destroying you at the same time. Your immune system can be very specific. Here's a macrophage engulfing this virus. It'll close up and destroy it. This macrophage has taken on a little bit more than it could chew. This is asbestos. Most likely it will destroy the macrophage. But this will facilitate getting it out of your system. So even unnatural things like asbestos, you can rely on your immune system to clear out of your system. And we were talking about these viruses taking over cells. They were able to actually capture one that was bursting. Here's one of your cells that was full of viruses at the point that it burst. They used dyes to get the differentiation here. Isn't that amazing? Look how many there are. It's no small wonder that you can come down with a cold and be totally infected in a day. These viruses are very clever. Isn't that amazing? Now, we talked about the hermetical seal. Okay? And we talked about these invaders, how they might get in. Now, you have to perform certain functions. You have orifices to breathe, to eat, to eliminate. How do you protect yourself there? You have to see. There's an orifice here. You have to see. What protects you? Tears. Tears protect you. Just like the blood flowing out will wash away contaminants, your tears wash away any potential invaders. And so, if you have an infection, one of the first things we want to do is cause the eyes to tear. And the best thing available is called an onion. You take and you grate up an onion, what's going to happen? Your eyes are going to tear, thereby initiating an immune response. Now, besides just the flow of tears, in the tears it also produces lysozymes. Lysozymes. Is that correct, Dean? Lysozymes? Close enough. At any rate, that enzyme destroys invaders. When you urinate, again, just like blood flowing out, the urination flow pushes out any potential invaders in that particular orifice. And it also creates these lysozymes. Wow, I got to get that pronunciation right. Lysozymes. What else do we have? We have lungs. We have to breathe. So, when we're out there jogging on State Street with all the traffic, the buses, the trucks, all the cars, why is it that people jog on the busiest thoroughfares? When I get my exercise, I like to go out to a side road where there aren't any cars. If I see a car, if I see 4 cars during my hour out, I feel I was robbed. These guys see 4 cars every second. So they're just really sucking in these contaminants. When you breathe in air, a lot of that can be trapped by the hairs in your nose, by the mucosa, and then you can blow it out. So when you exercise and breathe through your mouth, you've just eliminated all this part of your immune system. It's going to defend you. Right down into your lungs, all these contaminants go. But again, these macrophages are going to gobble up the impurities, because in that thin layer of mucus that's on your lungs that can trap these particles, also the macrophages can move around in that thin layer of mucus. And so that's going to protect you. And again, if these viruses or bacteria invade through breathing, the macrophages are going to grab right onto them. That's the way your immune system works. Isn't it amazing? I love it. It's just like there was a plan. Duh. Yeah, there was a plan. Absolutely. Now, one of the ways that we can thwart our immune system is by smoking. You inhale tobacco down into your lungs, you destroy the macrophages, thereby destroying the first line of defense. Not just with tar and nicotine, with cadmium, a heavy mineral. That's one of the main things wrong with tobacco, is cadmium, a heavy toxic mineral. Heavy minerals destroy bacteria. And they don't care. They're not even alive. Mineral isn't differentiation. There's no differentiation in minerals between good bacteria or bad bacteria. It kills bacteria. And so your friendly flora is going to be destroyed by this cadmium. You get it in a lot of other things too. But cigarette smoke definitely has that cadmium in, which will kill your macrophages, destroy them. So one of the best things you can do as you go out there is explain that to smokers. Which probably won't do any good because they're hooked. It's really tough, really tough. Another way that we can destroy this first line of defense is by eating improperly. If you eat a lot of dairy products and sugar and simple carbohydrates, it creates a thickened mucus in your lungs. And that thickened mucus is not conducive for the movement of these macrophages. And so basically you do the same thing by eating improperly that a smoker does by smoking. You destroy your first line of defense. So you're not quite protected. Right. So we want to do the proper things to keep our immune system up and active, and it will protect us. Now, we also have to eat. So, take an apple, eat it, chomp, swallow, down it goes. If you don't chew it thoroughly, basically, contaminants in the environment can get a free ride down into your system. Normally, that wouldn't be a problem. If you chew the particles really well, get it all mixed in there, in your saliva is one of your first lines of defense. And in that saliva, you have enzymes that will destroy these incoming bacteria or viruses. Any of these invaders will be destroyed there. So if you chomp, swallow, then a lot of those are going to get free rides. Your stomach is in a very acid condition. It's that way for a purpose. The high acidity in your stomach is not conducive for the growth of these invaders. So being acidic, you are protected from invaders. But if they get a free ride in the food and it's not acted upon by your digestive juices, into the intestinal tract it goes. And the intestinal tract is alkaline. And that is exactly the pH that these invaders want. It's the environment that your friendly flora wants, and it's the environment that it wants. Now, other ways we have of thwarting this process, say we do chew our food well, but then we're eating the wrong kinds of food. Say we're eating highly acidic food. Grains that haven't been treated properly in their acidic state. Grains are a very good food, but they're a highly storable food, and they're highly storable because of their acidity. That acidity is damaging to us. And so we want to change that acidity. We want to, here's a good rule. You ought to write it down. Anything that can be sprouted should be sprouted. Now, we don't just have to eat sprouts, but what we want to do is start it into the sprouting stage, change the pH so that it's more conducive to our system. So we're not eating these highly acidic foods. So what people do is they eat highly acidic foods. Twinkies are not conducive. They're acidic. You know, Twinkies and Coca-Cola, okay? If you're living on Twinkies and Coca-Cola, you might as well kiss off your immune system. So at any rate, you eat all these acid-forming foods, and I believe what it does is it tricks your body into thinking that it doesn't need to produce acid to break down acid. And so you don't get the hydrochloric acid being produced. Now, most everybody I talk to thinks they're making too much hydrochloric acid, that they have too acid of a condition. Tain't so. No one produces too much hydrochloric acid. As we get older, we produce less. These teenagers can go out to a pizza parlor, eat 2 14-inch pizzas by themselves, and break it all down. I eat a handful of corn chips, and all of a sudden, it's sitting on my stomach. Unless I eat those corn chips with salsa, and then I digest it just great. Because the cayenne pepper in salsa, being hot, stimulates the production of hydrochloric acid. And so you produce more hydrochloric acid by taking something hot. So all of your hot herbs, pungent is what we call them, all your pungent herbs, will help with digestion in that way by helping you to make more hydrochloric acid. So mustard, ginger, cayenne, horseradish, all those hot ones will help in that process. And that's exactly what we want to do, is make more hydrochloric acid, because that's the problem. When we get indigestion, it's not because we've got too much acid, it's because we don't have enough. We can't break down the food properly. Now, the body has a mechanism to take care of that situation. Basically, the valve will open up. You'll get a backwash of alkaline matter from the intestines into the stomach. And it's at that point that we all think, oh, wow, the acid's terrible. And then we take an antacid. Then we thwart the whole process. We totally alkalinize everything in our stomach, totally confuse the body. Oh, whoa, look at all this alkaline in the stomach. We better flush it down to the intestines, to where it's supposed to be. And so undigested food is being sent into the intestines. Now, I've heard medical doctors say, you don't even need your stomach. Boy, yes, you do. One of the things that your stomach does, the hydrochloric acid, is to break down chains, break down protein into smaller chains of amino acids to start breaking down protein. And then it can go into the intestines, and the pancreas then does produce the enzymes necessary to then further break down those proteins into smaller chains of amino acids. And by the time it gets to your intestines where the villi is at, okay, here's your intestines. And they're not smooth like that. They're actually like this. There's these finger-like projections called villi. And that's to give you more surface area. And so once protein gets down to here, then it's totally broken down into amino acids. You do not use protein. There's no way that you can use protein in the digestive process. Once the protein is broken down into amino acids, then and only then will it bypass and go into your system. So with that in mind, we ate this apple. Here it is. I'm sure it's still red and in its whole state, right? We ate this apple. It's down in our intestines. Here's the question. Is it inside our bodies or outside our bodies at this point? It's definitely outside our bodies, yes. Until it passes through this skin, just like the skin out here, this is what protects us from our environment. Until it passes through the skin, it doesn't become part of us. Now, it can't pass through that skin unless it's of the right molecular weight, if it's been broken down properly, because on this skin we have that friendly flora we were talking about. So thick that nothing can pass through it except what's supposed to pass through it. And that's what makes sure that nothing but amino acids get through into your system. Protein cannot be utilized by your body. Only amino acids can. And the body takes amino acids and makes protein. And that's important to know in dealing with the immune system. We'll put that together in just a minute here. So that's the way your body has it protecting you. If it doesn't break down, it just goes all the way through the GI tract and you poop it out. It's as simple as that. Now, what do we do to thwart that process? We go to medical doctors. And they'll give you an antibiotic. An antibiotic will wipe out all the flora in your intestines. Just wipe it out. Doesn't wipe out your intestines, but I don't seem to be able to differentiate between, with this eraser, the flora and your intestines. So we'll just go ahead and erase it here. And redraw the skin, because the flora now is gone. Now, it gets rid of all the flora, antibiotics, or colloidal silver. You know, there's this big thing in the health industry now about colloidal silver. Hey, there was a big thing back a number of years ago with DMSO. I mean, everybody was selling DMSO. These fads come and go. And when enough people get damaged with colloidal silver, that one will go too. Colloidal silver is a mineral. It's a heavy mineral. What did I say about minerals? Kills bacteria. And do you think mineral is alive, so it's going, I'm going to get this bacteria, but I'm not going to get this bacteria because it's a beneficial bacteria? No. Silver kills bacteria. I have a friend that does treks across the desert in Arizona. Now, they'll just take like one canteen, and when that water's gone, they have to find water out there on the desert. And if they come to a water hole and it's got a dead animal in it, they have to use the water or die. So he'll fill his canteen up, take some silver coins he always carries with him, puts it in the canteen. He can drink the water. Silver kills bacteria. And there's no way, it doesn't have a brain. It doesn't know what's good and what's bad. It kills bacteria. And it's very effective. And that's probably one of the reasons that particular product is so popular, because it works. But so do antibiotics. But in the long run, what's it going to do? At any rate, so all the flora is killed in your intestines when you take something like that, except one thing. And that is a flora that's very hardy called, let's get a different color for this one. We'll make this one blue. It's called Candida albicans. Candida albicans is in your intestinal tract for a purpose. It's got to be there. It's one of your friendly flora. It doesn't seem so friendly when there's an overgrowth, does it? But Candida albicans is in your system for a purpose. Candida is there to break down sugar and alcohol. Now what happens is you wipe out all the flora with an antibiotic or with minerals or something, and what happens is the Candida goes, whoa, Pete, look at all the room. And it takes over all this space that's been left because you wiped it out. Then all you got left in there is Candida, which only breaks down sugar and alcohol, which is fine for most Americans. That's all they eat anyway. But the problem there is if you continue to eat sugar and drink alcohol, what's going to happen is this Candida yeast is going to look for more room and will actually drill holes through your intestines and end up in your bloodstream, and then it becomes systemic. Then you have a yeast overgrowth throughout your whole body. And it can mimic any disease in the world. That's why it threw medical doctors off for so long, because they didn't know what was going on. Because they knew there was the classic symptoms of this particular disease or that particular disease, but the signs weren't there that confirmed that it was that disease. And so that's why they ended up giving you Valium if you had Candida overgrowth, because they couldn't detect what the problem was. Basically, it was just an overgrowth of yeast in your system. Now, the next step after yeast overgrowth is chronic fatigue syndrome. You never, ever have chronic fatigue syndrome without first having yeast overgrowth. It's like night follows day. Chronic fatigue follows yeast overgrowth. Now, taking antibiotics aren't the only way of getting a yeast overgrowth. How else can you get a yeast overgrowth? What does yeast grow on? It grows on sugar and alcohol. So, if your diet consists of sugar and alcohol, then naturally your body doesn't need the other flora and will only keep the yeast. You've effectively destroyed all the other flora just by selectively only eating sugar and drinking alcohol. Another way that you can effectively destroy that is with these heavy minerals, and that was demonstrated a lot by our forefathers. The drug of choice 300 years ago, 400 years ago, up until 1945, was mercury. And it destroys the flora in your intestines. And so a lot of the diseases back then was just simply this, caused by ingesting mercury. I was getting my hair cut by this barber, and we were discussing herbs, and he said, well, you know, Joseph Smith's brother was killed by herbalists. You know, they gave him an herb and it killed him. And I said, what herb was that? And he said, calomel. Now, I guess that sounds a lot like chamomile. But calomel is a acid extraction of mercury. So he was killed with mercury, a mercury compound, calomel. And it wasn't administered by any herbalist that I know of. Herbalists don't give those type of things. You had a system that used those things and rejected herbs because herbs were old-fashioned. Do you know herbs have always been old-fashioned since the beginning of time? But they've been around a long time. There's recorded use of herbs back to the Neanderthal man. They found with a burial site the remains of herbs, the seeds, from 5 different herbs that we still use medicinally today. Herbs have been around a long time. So yeah, they're old. But you know, the information about herbs doesn't grow old. Because herbs have such a long-standing use, they've been used for so long, that you know exactly what they're going to do. And so I was in a bookstore in England where I came across this herbal, and I kick myself every time I think about it that I didn't buy it. It was $600, but it's still something I wanted to get. It was an herbal by Thomas Green, I believe his name was, 1867 or something like that. But the information was as valuable then as it is today. Because the usage of herbs doesn't really change. We may know more about them scientifically, about the chemical composition, but the usage doesn't change. And the herbs are the same today as they were 100 years ago, 200 years ago, and the same as they'll be in 200 or 300 years. Herbs are constant. They are the only trustworthy medicine out there. The only safe and effective medication that's out there are herbs. At any rate, we're not talking about herbs tonight. What we're talking about is the immune system. So here we have this yeast overgrowth that can be caused from a number of different things. Now, how do we get rid of it? Well, let's start thinking like vitalists, okay? Vitalists are the opposite of allopaths. And that's the type of medicine we have today. In that they look at a situation and they say, oh, this person's not functioning well, they've broken down, we have to fix them. Whereas a vitalist will look at a situation and go, oh, that's how the body's reacting. Well, that's a good way to work. Let's help it out in its course. One of the best ways to well, let's get into that in a minute. Let's finish off with this, and then we'll explain about the differences. At any rate, to get rid of a yeast overgrowth, basically you look at the situation and you go, gee, how does that particular flora function? Why does it function? What's happening there? And we know that it breaks down sugar and alcohol, that it thrives on sugar and alcohol. So what's the logical thing? Stop sugar and alcohol. See, you don't need to go to medical school for 16 years. In fact, that's going to thwart your process because they don't teach common sense there. Common sense is all we need. Yeah. Yeast grows on sugar and yeast grows on alcohol. So you stop sugar and alcohol. It's pretty simple. You stop doing it. Of course, then the thing is how do you exist? Well, we find that simple sugars really cause yeast to grow. However, sugars in complex carbohydrates don't cause such a rapid growth. So what we want to do is avoid anything that's sugar or turns into sugar very quickly. So that would include, of course, sugar and honey and maple syrup and all these things that we think we can get away with. We have to do away with sweet. Just do away with it. Basically what we do with a candida diet is we put them on brown rice and vegetables. Brown rice, not because it's such a miraculous thing, only because it's not hard to break down. Brown rice is very simple, whole grain to break down. It's very easy on almost everybody's digestive system. Whether you're glucose intolerant or not, you can break down rice. Rice is a very simple grain to break down. So it's a complex carbohydrate that's easily used. And so we use brown rice and vegetables in our candida diet. Now, if we want to supplement, say we need B vitamins, we can take yeast. Everybody goes, yeast? You already have a yeast problem. Why do you want to take yeast? What does this yeast grow on? Sugar and alcohol. Does it grow on yeast? No, it doesn't grow on yeast. Now, an active yeast you kind of want to avoid because if you've wiped out all the flora and there's space here and you put an active yeast in there, then an active yeast might grow. But nutritional yeast is not active. It has been harvested. It cannot grow again. So nutritional yeast would be a thing that we could eat. The only problem that you might have with it is if your body has a hard time breaking it down properly. And so we'd want to avoid doing that. Now, we also want to avoid anything that is going to be hard to digest. And so we probably want to lay light on meat and eggs and those types of things. And definitely no dairy. Because the lactose in dairy breaks down very easily and feeds the candida. So you don't want that sugar in there. And there's a lot of sugar in dairy. So you don't want that lactose. So we say no dairy products. Absolutely none. No, except maybe one. But we'll say no because you can't get it. Okay? We will take questions later. So write down your questions and we'll answer them. People say, well, let's do yogurt. Well, yogurt deserves its reputation as a food that'll help here, except for the fact nobody has it. What you find in the store that's called yogurt is not. It's garbage. They totally wipe out all the friendly flora, and then they put acidophilus back in. Some of your health food brands. The other brands, it has nothing. It has absolutely nothing. They've pasteurized it out. It's interesting about pasteurization. Pasteurization kills all the friendly flora. And what is it? Pasteurization is at 155 or 160 degrees. E. coli is destroyed at 190. So you're getting all the good stuff, and you're not even protected against the bad stuff. That's why you're getting some E. coli in a lot of your dairy products, is because pasteurization doesn't help with E. coli. At any rate, so we're saying leave yogurt alone also. Unless you have your own goat, and it's not lying around in its poop all day, you know, and you can be very clean and get some real clean goat milk out and do your own, make your own yogurt from that, raw, yeah, okay, that might be real good. If you can't do that, forget it, no yogurt. So what we're saying is fermented foods are what we want to go towards. So sauerkraut, kimchi, Rejuvelac. That goes totally against what all the books say on candida, because all the books are wrong. One person wrote a book that was wrong, everybody copied it, and all the books are wrong. Because that's exactly what we need to resolve the problem, is to put the flora back in that we lost. Our first line of defense. We've got to put it back in. Just like you don't want to wipe off the flora on the outside of your skin, you don't want to wipe it off on the inside either. And so we've got to reestablish it. And that's one place to reestablish it, is with those fermented products. Yeah, fermented. Like vinegar, and they all say, all those books say, stay away from vinegar. Heck no! Apple cider vinegar is one of the things you want to use to get some of that flora back in. So we reestablish the flora. Now, where else can you get this flora? The flora is out there. It's available. You get it on raw produce. Raw produce would be a place to get it, unless that raw produce has been treated. Have you ever wondered why you go into a health food store, a natural food store, and they got flies, and they've got fruit flies, and they've got all kinds of problems, and their potatoes are sprouting, and I mean, you go to a regular grocery store, and everything's sterile, nice, clean. What a filthy environment natural food stores are. Well, no, the natural food stores have flora on the produce. These other ones don't have any flora left. It's been taken off. It's been destroyed. It's been chemicalized. They actually found a worker up in the Northwest spraying black flag over the produce. And they're going, this must be an isolated instance. No, it was standard operating procedure. They want to make that environment sterile. So if you want to get some fresh produce out of your garden, or something you can trust like organically grown, you can get friendly flora from that. Can you see how important that the flora is for protecting you? Now, we've reestablished the flora with things like acidophilus. You can get acidophilus capsules, and you can get things like PB8, which is a lot of probiotics. You want to get as many as possible, but even eight, that's only 8. Remember we said there's like 400 different types, and they all have different functionings in your intestines. That's why there's different types, because there's a lot of different jobs to do down there. A lot of different foods to break down, a lot of different chemical compounds, a lot of protection that needs to take place. This doesn't only protect you from proteins, it protects you from heavy minerals. It protects you from chemical compounds. It protects you from things in the environment that aren't supposed to be in there. So you ingest things that aren't supposed to be there, and if they've been around a long time, your flora is already down there going, hey, we're ready for that. Hey, we're ready for that. And it'll break them down or bind to them or do whatever it needs to do to keep them going through your GI tract, and out it goes. That's the way your immune system is set up. This intestinal flora also feeds the skin on your intestines. 70% of the nutrients on these cells that border it are fed from the flora. Now, have you ever thought about this? One of the problems with bacteria in your system is the toxins that are produced from its elimination. So toxins is a real problem with bacteria. We've got more bacteria than we have us. So why aren't we being poisoned by its poop, its elimination? Well, let's give an example someplace else in our environment. Plants give off oxygen. That's its waste. And we breathe its waste. We breathe the waste of plants. We need the oxygen. We give off CO2. Plants need CO2. And they utilize that. So they use our waste, we use their waste. Do you think maybe the same thing's happening with bacteria? One of the things that bacteria produces, that it's probably its waste, but something that we need, are vitamins. These friendly flora make vitamins. In particular, most of the B vitamins. In particular, a B vitamin that the medical profession is saying, if you don't eat your meat, you're not going to get. Vitamin B12 is manufactured by the flora in your intestines. We make our own B12. Well, maybe I shouldn't use that term so loosely, we. I've never had an antibiotic in my life. I make vitamin B12 in my intestines. I don't know about you. Okay, other things that the intestinal flora does. It breaks down cholesterol. Other things that the intestinal flora does. It breaks down hormones. So if you've got excess hormones, your intestinal flora can break it down. Your intestinal flora does a lot. You don't want to wipe it out with an antibiotic or colloidal silver or anything else. You want to keep it intact. Now, to get it back intact, like we said, we do all this friendly flora. One of the things you can do that's very inexpensive, I mean, you can go spend $20, $30 for a bottle of acidophilus, which is only one flora, remember. It's a very active one and very beneficial. But if you want a full spectrum, a very inexpensive thing, especially for people in this area who have it sitting down in their basement, not doing anything with it, you just go get some wheat out of your basement. And take a jar and fill it maybe a third full of wheat, and then fill it full of water, the jar, set it on the counter, come back the next day, pour the water off, pour it down the drain, put more water on your grain, wait for 24 hours. The next day, it's foul. It's bubbly. It smells awful. This time you don't pour it down the drain, you pour it into another glass, and that's what you drink. The foul, smelly, bubbly stuff, that's got the flora that you need to reestablish into your system. And that's a very inexpensive way to get it. Okay, now also we're going to have to try to get rid of this candida. Now we said we were going to eliminate sugar and things from our diet, and that's going to work. Other things we can do to help the process along, there's an herb called black walnut. Excellent for candida. Okay, another one called Paudiarco. P-A-U-D-A-R-C-O, Paudiarco. Excellent for candida. Golden seal, chaparral. Some of these herbs are really, really good. Garlic. Excellent. Excellent. If you think you need a little help like they do with the medical profession with nystatin, I wouldn't trust nystatin, but you could take something you get in a health food store that will do the same thing, and it's called caprylic acid. That's as unnatural as we get, but caprylic acid seems to have the same effect as nystatin. It doesn't seem to destroy candida, but it keeps it at bay. It seems to check it so it doesn't grow anymore. So that'd be another thing to use while you're using these other herbs to try to get rid of the problem. So what we want to do is reestablish the flora. We want the flora inside. We want the flora outside. So we don't want to use harsh chemicals. We don't want to put our hand... Beauticians have a real problem always putting their hands in chemicals and things. You know, always touching chemicals, always touching these things, destroying the flora. And that destroys their first line of defense. So we want to be real careful in protecting the flora that we have. So we have our Vitalists here. This was explained somewhat in the Be Your Own Doctor course. So if you want a good explanation here, pick up that course. We also call the other guys atomists because they only believe in what they can see, the atom. So when a Vitalist looks at you, they say, gee, you're functioning. Whereas these guys look at you and they say, oh, you're broken. And so they try to fix it. For example, let's take a fever. Okay? What happens when an atomist, your present doctors, see a fever? What do they think? Got to break the fever. Even though they've been giving lip service to, oh, a fever may be beneficial, they always still try to break a fever. Because they look at you and say, you're not functioning. You're broken. We got to fix you. And so they'll fix you with what? It's usually just an aspirin. So they'll give you an aspirin, and that stops a fever. Do you know how it stops a fever? They know that now. Remember we talked about the way a macrophage talks to a T helper cell is with interleukin 1. Interleukin 1 is what triggers a fever. The body creates a fever. So it's not that you're not functioning, you're functioning very well. And these guys, these vitalists, have always recognized that. They look at a situation, they go, you got a fever? Well, what we can do is put you in a tub of hot water and build the fever. Let it take its course. Now, those are two extreme opposite things to do. Number one, cut a fever, or number two, build a fever. You see a problem with either one of those approaches? Yes, sir.
A fever, you don't want it out of control. There's a level that you want to keep the fever. If it's going beyond that level, then you do have to bring it back down.
Exactly. You want to be able to keep a fever in control. You want to keep it at a certain level. You know, a lot of people go, well, how high do we let a fever go? How high do we let a fever go? You know, we used to think that too. We've thrown away our thermometer. Who cares? Dr. Mendelsohn, in his book, How to Raise a Healthy Child in Spite of Your Doctor, he states that a fever will not go over 107 due to a viral or bacterial infection. It will not go over. Now, if you slip and hit your head and throw off the mechanism, then a fever may go too high. Or if you take a drug that interferes with the body's natural process, it may go too high. Or if you get a vaccination that's gotten up into your brain, it may go too high. But due to a simple viral or bacterial infection, it will not go over 107 degrees, even if you don't do anything. Now, but we want to actively work with a fever. So we put them in this tub of hot water. We build the fever. But one thing that we recognize is that when you have a fever, you're generally thirsty. And so if you're thirsty, we go, oh, you want something to drink? We'll give you something to drink. We don't give you a little bit to drink. We give you a lot to drink. And so basically what we do is we give like a quart of yarrow tea. For each 45 minutes, we put them in the hot tub. Now, if you've got them in there for 2 or 3 hours, they've consumed a lot of yarrow tea. Why do we use yarrow tea? Yarrow is a diaphoretic. What does diaphoretic mean? It makes you sweat. Okay. Any diaphoretic, if you take it hot, it'll make you sweat. If you take it cold, it becomes a diuretic, which means it'll make you urinate. Now, with this procedure where we're giving this hot diaphoretic tea in large copious amounts, you would think that you would urinate till the cows come home. But you don't. You'll be lucky if you can get a cup of urine out of these people. So where does it all go? Right out through the pores. And that's what regulates the temperature of the body. That's what will make sure it won't go over that 107 degrees, what you're doing. Has anybody ever walked into a walk-in cooler? It's not so bad. You can work in there for quite a while, can't you? Say it's 32 degrees. You can work in there for a long time. Now, have you ever got into a tub that was 32 degrees of water? That's about where we're going to get some ice, isn't it? Okay, you can get into there and you're not going to stay very long. The transference of temperature through water is immediate. Through air, it's going to take a while. And that's one of the reasons we use water and not like a sauna or something. We use water because the transference is immediate. And we can make sure that that temperature does not go over what we need it to go over. You can do that with a sauna too. As long as you're taking plenty of liquid, making sure that transference happens, then you can be pretty safe in a sauna too, as long as the liquid is going in. And with the tub, you want to make sure the liquid's going in also. So we want to put more in than is going to go out. You perspire, and that perspiration has 96% water and 4% solids. And I believe urine is 94% water and 6% solids. So you get a little bit more solid out with urine, but you still get quite a bit of solids out with perspiration. So we're going to eliminate quite a bit through perspiring. Now, another thing that's interesting is that invading bacteria don't like high temperatures. So you'll actually decrease the activity of invaders by raising the body's temperature. But your immune system functions at a higher rate of speed more efficiently at a higher temperature. So the higher you can take the body, the more efficient the immune system becomes. The more active these macrophages get. You turn them in from the round macrophages into elongated macrophages by turning up the heat. The temperature of the body is very important in the functioning of the immune system. One of the other things that the temperature does, when you raise the temperature, it blocks the iron in your system. Your body can't utilize iron when you have a fever. Well, why would it do that? Because bacteria needs iron to grow. And so basically your body is shutting the iron supply off for invading bacteria. So one of the worst things you can do during a fever is take an iron supplement. In fact, let's be frank about this. One of the worst things you can do is take an iron supplement. Because they've shown that even though if you don't have enough iron in your system, your immune system is impaired. If you have too much iron in your system, your immune system is impaired. So how do you get the proper amount of iron? Through plants. Bingo! You hit it right on the head. Through plants. We don't eat dirt. We don't eat rocks. We eat plants. Plants take the iron up into their system. We eat those plants. They say that you need, what, between 15 and 40 milligrams of iron on a daily basis. One biscuit of shredded wheat has 30. So what's the big deal? You don't need iron supplements. That's getting off on another subject. But don't even think about supplementation. It's only going to compound the problem. You need zinc for a properly functioning immune system. Too much zinc, it impairs your immune system. You can go down mineral for mineral. It's the same thing. If you haven't got that right balance, you can impair the immune system. High or low, you got a problem. If you're eating food that has those nutrients in, then you don't have to worry about that. Okay, back to a fever. So, another thing about fever, 50 case histories of cancer written by Dr. Max Gerson. He states in that book, he was the first one to do it. A lot of other doctors have put it in their books since then. I'm going to quote him. Dr. Max Gerson says that cancer cells are destroyed at 107 degrees. So why not let the body's temperature go to 107? It's not a problem. A high temperature is fine as long as you're putting enough liquid in for the body to regulate and make sure that it can get the toxins out, that it can keep the temperature regulated. So that's the key, the liquid going in. Can you burn out brain cells with a high temperature? Sure. Let me tell you about a lecture I went to by a naturopath, and he said, basically what you need to do for a fever is wrap them in an electric blanket and turn it up. You will burn out brain cells. Without the liquid, you will burn out brain cells. I don't know how many people he tried that on, but I'll tell you, I wouldn't ever want to go to him. One thing, even if you did perspire, you'd probably electrocute yourself. I don't think he ever used the procedure. He probably said, well, you just want to turn the heat up, so let's wrap him in an electric blanket. Okay. So, that's not what we do. Now, usually a question is from people, what about convulsion? Aren't you afraid of convulsion with a fever? Nope, not at all. You get up to 107 degrees, you won't have a convulsion. You'll never have a convulsion on a steady fever. A convulsion always happens on the rise. That's the only time you're going to have a convulsion happen. So, medical profession looks at that and goes, oh, a convulsion! And so, they'll give you anticonvulsive drugs the rest of your life if you have a convulsion. We look at the situation and we go, gee, body's working. Now, if I was to get lightheaded, the way the body works is I would fall on the ground. And by being on the ground, the circulation would change. Okay? And by being flat on the ground, prostrate on the ground, then I could get blood rushed to my head. Let's go to the extreme. An anatomist would look at that and they'd go, oh, we fell down, and they'd give you anti-falling drugs the rest of your life. So you won't ever fall down again. thereby cutting off the process of saving yourself. If you give anticonvulsive drugs, if you need a convulsion, you can't have one, and you got a problem. The body works, and it works really well. And we just have to be smart enough not to get in its way, to observe what it's doing and try to help it in its course. And certainly never, ever, ever thwart the body's process of taking care of itself, because the body does work. If you have a convulsion, the main thing you want to be concerned with, because nobody dies from convulsions, the main thing you want to be concerned with is that they don't slip under the water or swallow their tongue or something. Okay? Make sure they keep breathing, but they're not going to die from a convulsion, because it's the body's adjustment. Take epilepsy, for instance. They give something to keep you from having seizures. We look at that and we go, gee, what's the body trying to do? Maybe it's trying to seize something from some part of the body because it's lacking something. So the way we deal with epilepsy is we make sure they get all the nutrients that they might. We don't know which one it is. We just give them all these nutrients, and it works. And the seizures don't happen, because the body doesn't have to seize something from some other part of the system that is not there. Are you kind of following the kind of the differences between these two philosophies? And that's the whole thing. It's a difference in philosophy. And it doesn't matter how nice a guy these guys are. They can be the nicest person in the world and have all the empathy in the world for you and do everything they can to help you. But if the system's wrong, if the philosophy's wrong, if everything it's based on is wrong, then they're only going to do damage. What kind of damage can they do? By AMA standards, okay, the AMA admits, this was in the JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association, they admit to 188,000 iatrogenic deaths a year. Do you all know what iatrogenic means? Doctor caused. They admit to 188,000 a year. In other words, you go see a doctor with one problem, you end up getting another one and dying from it, from his procedure. If the procedure is flawed, this is going to happen. It's a small percentage. You're only looking at maybe 1%. 1, maybe 2%. And then doctors go, hey, give us credit, 98%. Okay, let's give airline pilots credit. Let's let them have 98%. They'll take 98 flights, that 99th flight, boom, they can crash it. It's the same thing. That's their figures, 188,000. Dr. Dean Black, in his book, Health at the Crossroads, estimates it to be more like 700,000. See, this figure is very conservative. Hey, listen. 50,000 men died in Vietnam. What was that, a 15, 20-year war? 50,000 men died in Vietnam. They're taking more than that a quarter. Because they're based on an incorrect principle. You can be as careful as you want with that incorrect principle. If it's incorrect, it's going to cause problems. You cannot fight the body and expect it to be well and whole. But you can work with it. You can work with the body. Just to wrap up the immune system, let me just tell you the difference between Vitalist and Atomist as far as your immune system is concerned. We say, let your immune system work. They say, we'll do the work. Okay? So after you've taken this aspirin and you've stopped a fever, then you go back to the doctor and he detects that you have a bacterial infection. Well, yeah, you've got a bacterial infection because you won't let your immune system work. So then he gives you an antibiotic to make up for the drug he gave before. And that's their whole system. Drug after drug after drug after drug after drug, cut out an organ. The first real successful organ removal that they did was the tonsils. Dr. Mendelsohn says in his book, How to Raise a Healthy Child Inspired by Your Doctor, he says, the only mistake God made was putting tonsils too close to the surgeon's knife. Okay, so yes, they saved some lives back in the 1800s by cutting people's tonsils out, and then they could breathe again. Okay, they actually did some life-saving techniques. And that's all well and fine, you know? But then they start going, well, you've been getting swollen tonsils ever so often. We better cut them out before you have a real problem. Okay, so they started doing that. Then they started saying, we might as well take your tonsils out because you don't need them. They're not good for anything. You know? And so then they started taking people's tonsils out just to prevent it. To prevent me ever hitting my fingers, see, I want to be a carpenter when I grow up. So to prevent me from ever making my fingers swell, I'm going to cut them all off, put some metal claws there so I can hold a hammer with metal claws and never ever hit my fingers. Now, isn't that stupid? But that's exactly what they're doing with the tonsils. And I'm saying those tonsils are much more important than those fingers for protecting you. They had an outbreak of polio in the 50s. Okay? Where did it come from? Why didn't they have an outbreak of polio in the 40s? Why was it the 50s that it all of a sudden just went kaboom? One of the reasons is, this is recent medical research, the only place that you can produce the antibodies for polio is in the tonsils. Back in the 40s, they took everybody's tonsils out. So you get to the 50s where, hey, during the war, there was no sugar. No sugar available. It was rationed. As soon as the war is over, boom, sugar's flowing like rivers in the United States. Sugar's flowing, no tonsils, the perfect setup for a catastrophe, and that's exactly what happened. I'm saying polio was an iatrogenic disease caused by the medical profession because they took our tonsils out and then they let sugar flow like water. And we'll talk about sugar and polio at a later time. Okay. Now, in the 50s, this profession that just is so scientific, if you look in the Merck Index in the 40s, they didn't know what the heck the thymus was for. So they invented a disease called hyperthymus. They said, oh, your thymus is too big. And so they took it out. The thymus is the master gland of the immune system. They took it out back in the 50s because they didn't know what it was for. Now, we can say, oh, it was ignorance. No, it was arrogance. They think they're greater than God. God put it in, and they said, we don't know what it's for. We'll take it out. They didn't only surgically take it out, they irradiated it in some of their patients. Every one of those patients came down with thyroid cancer. Okay, these guys not only don't help your immune system, they assault your immune system. So, here we got the thymus gland that was destroyed by these guys. We have the tonsils that's taken out still today by these guys, even though their textbooks on immunology say don't take the tonsils out, it's an integral part of the immune system, they're still taking them out. I know someone that just a couple of weeks ago went to a doctor and they were going to take out her appendix. Didn't have a problem with her appendix, they were going to take it out. How do we jump from tonsils to the appendix? Because the appendix is an integral part of the immune system according to their textbooks on immunology. It has direct links to the spleen. Okay, let's make it really simple. The tonsils protect you from here down to your stomach. Your adenoids protect you from here up to your head. The adenoids are an integral part of the immune system. You don't take out the adenoids. They take them out all the time. You don't take out the tonsils. They take them out all the time. Okay? Peyer's patches is what protects your intestines. You make sure you don't take those out. The appendix protects your lower bowel. You take out the appendix, you've got a much greater chance of getting colon cancer or any number of things. The appendix is an integral part of the immune system. The lymph glands are an integral part of the immune system. They take them out. You don't take out what God put in. It's arrogance, not ignorance, it's arrogance. It's a system that's totally lost contact, not only with their God, but with their patients. And that's why you have 188,000 people, by their standards, dying on a yearly basis. 700,000 by our standards. And let's just add something to that, okay? Not only they're assaulting the immune system and destroying us, and destroying our ability to protect ourselves from disease, they're also feeding us in ways that's making us die in droves. 800,000 people a year are dying from cardiovascular disease. It's an iatrogenic disease because the medical profession gave us the 4 basic food groups. Not scientifically because they don't have any nutrition in medical school. 4 basic food groups came from the dairy industry. Someone in the dairy industry, some hotshot in the advertising department, looked at the 7 basic food groups, which was unscientific before that, and said, gee, milk's only 1/7 of the diet. Let's change it this way, and it'll be 1/4 of the diet. So they put milk as 1/4, meat as 1/4, and they did something unprecedented in the history of the world. They took the fat standard, the fat consumption of this nation, up to 50%. Why are people dying from cardiovascular disease? Because they taught us the 4 basic food groups correct. Dr. Victor Herbert, in a publication in 1978, said the perfect example of 4 basic food groups, which is good nutrition, is a cheeseburger. Because you've got grain, you've got meat, you've got dairy, and you've got vegetables. That's where they're at. 800,000 deaths a year because of cardiovascular disease, because of Dr. Victor Herbert and his friends. Okay? 700,000 deaths a year because they don't know what the hell they're doing. Okay? Plus all the other things like destroying our immune system, so every other disease we can attribute to them too. Hey, I've become a little bit hard on these guys because they don't know where their place is. Okay? Where their place is with emergency medicine, and they're good. They're really good, and that's where you need to use them. If you have an emergency, if you've fallen off a ski slope, 50 feet to crush every bone in your body, then they're probably the guys you want to see. But if you're just sick, I'd stay away from them if you want to have good health. Keep your tonsils, keep your appendix, keep your adenoids, keep your Peyer's patches, keep your thymus, keep your immune system, and it will protect you from disease. Thank you very much.